Hello and welcome. Today we're going to be talking about there are unfair hiring practices that you want to avoid at all costs. These can get you in some serious trouble and can cost you a lot of money if you breach them. So please keep this in mind that you want to be very careful. And these are not exclusive, but these are the top ones that I see happening that businesses are making the mistake of breaking. Before we get started, if you're new here, my name is Taylor Darcy from Think Legal, where I help you create the business of your dreams. So welcome. If you haven't already, please don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get notified when I go live. I do go live Monday through Friday every day at 11 a.m. to discuss different issues concerning your business, entrepreneur goals, and dreams. So please tune in and get your questions answered, and I'm happy to help. So let's get started. First, one of the things that you want to avoid is implying in any way, shape, or form that there is a contract or that employment is anything other than at will if you're in an at will place. Now, keep in mind that different states have different laws, so this is specific to California. If you're out of California, don't rely on this. You want to consult an attorney in your local area to find out what is the law in your local area. That's number one. So make sure that your contracts or lack thereof, any type of offer letter, any type of employment handbook, anything that could be construed as binding, you want to make sure that in that language, as frequently as possible, that it is clear that even if it's multiple times, you might think, well, they saw it on the first page, so it should be good. No, you want to have it on the first page. You want to have it in any type of situation throughout the employment handbook, and make sure that they're signing something saying that they understand that it's an at-will agreement, that there is no contract implied or otherwise, and that words, you can't think by conduct that it is an at-will thing unless there's a contract in writing. So that's number one. The next thing that you want to do is make sure that you're not using coded discriminatory language in your job descriptions. So, for instance, bright, energetic, could be coded language for, an ageism potential claim. So you want to stay away from anything like that. Must be fluent or, anything involving an accent that could be misconstrued for ethnicity. Those types of things you want to stay away from. So, and it's also very important that you have a current, up-to-date job description so that it doesn't reflect things from 20 years ago. It's now, right? Make sure that the job duties match the current position's expectations so that it's realistic. The next thing you want to avoid is using only one source for your recruiting. You want to have a varied sources because people will come from different walks of life, different areas, and really you want to get the best candidate regardless of where they come from. If you only seek out referrals, then you're running the risk that it could be discriminatory because of the way that the people hang out. Again, these are the big mistakes. That isn't to say that this is all of the mistakes. So you really want to pay attention to how you're hiring as much as who you're hiring. And these are all hows. The next thing is that you want to make sure that you're not using a resume in place of a completed application. You want to have a standard application that everyone fills out so that there's nothing discriminatory. Also, resumes are very subjective, right? And they're going to present their best foot, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But by having everybody fill out the same application, then you're not running the risk that someone could say that there was coded language within the resumes that tipped you off about something that makes it discriminatory. So keep that in mind. You want to have an application, and there are specific things that you want to put in that application. We're not going to go over these today, but we will in future episodes about the things that you want to put in your employment applications to make sure that they are correct. Now, you can buy a template application and then go off of that, but sometimes they may not have industry-specific questions. So you want to make sure that you're doing any type of customization. One other thing that you're going to want to make sure that you have is a employment handbook. Now, this isn't directly related to this, but the The idea being that you want to have something that shows a consistent thought process throughout all of your potential employees. And this should be done ideally before you even get an employee, before you even start the employment process, like 6 months to, no more than 3 months away from when you're looking at getting an employee. You really want to make sure that you're covering yourself, you're thinking of all of the options, you're protecting yourself as a business owner, and then everything's clear. The biggest mistake you can make is assume that anybody knows anything. And so by doing this, all of these things, you're going to have a much more productive and useful time doing the job search. And it's also going to be a lot more conducive to the type of culture that you want to bring into your business. The next thing that you want to avoid is asking about any type of criminal anything until after you've extended a job offer. The idea being you don't want that to discriminate against them. You don't want it to be something that could hurt them. Now, again, this is California specific only. There are other things that you must comply with, but this is very specific to California. Other states may be different. California, you want to definitely avoid asking about any type of criminal background to prevent from it being any type of discriminatory. That being said, after you've extended an offer of employment, you can then request for the criminal background and other background things. And you really want to make sure you're doing your background to protect yourself as a business owner against potential unfair hiring practices, allegations, but also to protect your business so that you're not considered negligently hiring someone. That's very important that you're paying attention to these types of details so that you're not risking that unnecessarily. Next, you want to avoid, rather than go over the list of all the things that you should, just avoid asking anything that could be discriminatory about family, ethnicity, and age. Those are your top ones in your interview. That doesn't mean this is exhaustive. There's all sorts of things. So you want to stay away from anything regarding a religion, anything that's a protected class, anything that could look like you're discriminating based upon those things. And so family, so don't ask them about their family. If they volunteer something about their family, don't ask further. That's not invitation for you to ask. Just acknowledge it and move on and ask the questions that are relevant to you. Age, young, vibrant, as we talked about in the job description. You want to avoid anything that could be considered ageism, because that is a real thing over 40. The next thing you're going to want to avoid asking is anything about salary history. You can ask what their salary expectations are, but you really have to avoid their salary history. And this is important because in California, it's prohibited from asking about your salary history, not about your salary expectations, because you don't know what they want. And it's not relevant really to doing the job. You can test, but you want to avoid testing that could reveal a mental or physical condition that would be considered private, anything that could hurt them. Now, if it's relevant to the job, that's different. Being able to lift something, if it's a employee where they're having to lift a lot of stuff, that's okay, as long as it's reasonable and it's not discriminatory in how it's administered, or that it has to be very, very precise onto what the job expectation is, or that it's relevant to the job. Unless you're a public employer, you cannot do a polygraph test, so don't even bother. These are just, again, I want to be very clear that these are just some of the things that you need to avoid. These are the top ones. These are the highlights. Talked about them in other videos, but I think it's worth discussing again, because these same mistakes especially by smaller businesses, keep happening repeatedly. And so that's why I do different videos, and hopefully it'll spark your thought process on how you can improve and how you can avoid this. And the big issue is that one form of discrimination, when they sue you, if this ever becomes a lawsuit, they're not just suing you for one. They could actually be suing you for 5, 10, 15 causes of action, depending on which ones you breach. And then including the punitive damages with each one of those, which is often awarded in employment cases in California, can be very expensive. I mean, it can put you out of business. And so these are things that you really want to pay attention to, that if you can't afford an HR person, that you're sitting down and you're getting the books necessary to make good decisions on your hiring, and that you're avoiding these things so that you're not getting sued and losing either your entire business or a substantial amount of your business because you made these mistakes. So these can be very costly. As I said earlier, we go live every weekday, Monday through Friday, except for holidays. Tune in and subscribe, and we'll talk to you later. Have a good one.